Katie,
yeah,
you don't want any of that smoke.
Rally was,
I promise
was led by the Southern Poverty Law Center.
If you think white nationalism is made up by the Southern Poverty Law Center, no wonder you don't have a problem with what J.D. Vance said about Nixon.
The kind you're talking about in MAGA it's made up by the Southern Poverty Law Center. It absolutely was.
Chris,
please like, subscribe, and share. Chris Cuomo completely shut down fellow NewsNation host Katie Pavlich after she claimed that white nationalism was invented to attack the MAGA movement. Seriously, you have to see this exchange to believe it. We're going to break down clips from this intense debate between Chris Cuomo and Katie Pavlich. By the end, she appeared visibly emotional. I'll also share my thoughts on the whole situation. This is a fascinating one, so let's dive in.
Why did I think that? Because I realized that the ugly things that I saw coming out of MAGA, the prejudice, the white nationalism, the Christian nationalism, that was the few.
That was made up by the Southern Poverty Law Center?
No, it wasn't made up. Oh, please. Katie,
yeah,
you don't want any of that smoke.
Rally was,
I promise
was led by the Southern Poverty Law Center.
If you think white nationalism is made up by the Southern Poverty Law Center, no wonder you don't have a problem with what J.D. Vance said about Nixon.
The kind you're talking about in MAGA it's made up by the Southern Poverty Law Center. It absolutely was.
So there are no real bigots in MAGA.
And an indictment by DOJ to show it.
So there are no real bigots in MAGA. There are no real white nationalists. They've all been put up to it by the Southern Poverty Law Center. Like January 6th was an inside job by the FBI.
That's what the indictment says.
What indictment says? What indictment says that the FBI did January 6th? I love hearing the conspiracies.
I was talking about the indictment of the Southern Poverty Law Center in Alabama, which details how the Southern Poverty Law Center specifically paid the organizer of the Charlottesville rally to take people to and from to make up this fake hate rally that they then used against the president and the right for years. SPLC has been accusing conservatives and the right of false white supremacy.
In the indictment.
Please like, subscribe, and share. Just think about how outrageous Katie Pavlich's argument is here. And throughout this exchange, you can really see the difference in debating ability between Chris Cuomo and Katie Pavlich. Whatever your opinion of Chris Cuomo may be, and I know plenty of people aren't fans of his, he clearly has the upper hand in this discussion. Katie's main strategy, which is common among many MAGA commentators, seems to be talking over the other person. She tries the same approach. She uses with guests on her own show, but Cuomo is a much more experienced debater and doesn't let it derail the conversation. For over a decade, and by defrauding your donors. White supremacy. If you think they invented white supremacy, if you think the Southern Poverty Law Center created white supremacy, they did, okay. If that's what you want to believe, Katie. Because I've met people in the South who have lost family members. You're trying to make this about me. It's not about me. It's about the SPLC and the left. An indictment. Manufacturing. An indictment, just to clarify, is a charging document. It's a set of allegations, not established facts. And they aren't even charged with organizing anything like that. So don't present it as if it's a proven fact, because it isn't. If you understand what an indictment is, then you know the difference, right? Chris, I don't need a lecture from you. Don't act like I don't know what an indictment is. I've worked in this industry for 20 years, and pretending I don't understand what I'm talking about is absurd. At this point, she looks like she's on the verge of breaking down emotionally. And remember, this is someone who hosts a national TV show. I know NewsNation isn't CNN or Fox News, where Katie Pavlich previously worked, but Cuomo's fact-based responses seem to completely throw her off. To me, she represents the kind of combative political commentary that prioritizes talking points over substance, while Cuomo keeps pushing back with facts. What really stands out is how casually he dismisses arguments that he sees as unsupported, and his reaction to the exchange is honestly pretty striking.
It's absurd.
No,
you're being very disrespectful.
Well, listen, I don't mean it that way, Katie. I want to try to get to what's behind some of these arguments. Like, I think going after the Southern Poverty Law Center.
I don't think you're doing the best way.
I think that's dangerous. I think J.D. Vance saying it's okay to commit a burglary
and false white supremacy
is dangerous.
And falsely accusing conservatives of white supremacy is dangerous. I think saying that people are hateful, like Charlie Kirk, putting him on a hate watch map is dangerous, and he lost his life as a result of this fomenting of this fake
he was killed for what he believed.
We've seen terrorizing the right forever from places like the Southern Poverty Law Center, which, yes.
And Charlie Kirk was a hateful person. Charlie Kirk didn't deserve to die, and no one deserves to die. But Charlie Kirk was a hateful person who spread all kinds of racist propaganda.
Been indicted by a grand jury, by the Department of Justice, that lists a set of facts they will use in federal court, in front of a judge, and in front of juries to make their case. That is real.
They're not
facts. If you want to deny it, you can, but it is a fact.
No, No.
What
That's
are they
not
then?
fact.
They're
An
just made
allegation.
up? They're made up? What are they then?
An allegation is an uncorroborated suggestion that must be proven at trial by material and competent evidence that is found compelling to a judge or a jury.
Those are the
Otherwise,
facts
it's
of
just
the
a charging
indictment.
document. But an indictment doesn't have facts. An indictment is putting something forward that they'll believe they'll prove, as a matter of fact. Maybe, we'll see. And if they show that the Southern Poverty Law Center set up the Charlottesville thing, they should all go to prison. If they can show beyond a reasonable doubt that people at the Southern Poverty Law Center created hate groups, they should all go to prison, Katie. I'm here for it. And if you get that story, I will have you lead the whole show. I'll be your correspondent on it.
Well, I have my own
you
show
can have
at
my
10
whole
p.m.,
hour.
so I appreciate that.
I know, but I'm saying I'd give you
I'll be on at my
both
show at
hours.
10 o'clock. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Because I want that. I want us to get to a place where we just call right and wrong everywhere. If the Southern Poverty Law Center did that, wrong. If Biden did it,
Please like, subscribe, and share. One thing that often frustrates me about Chris Cuomo is his tendency to take a both-sides approach to political issues. That said, I don't see him as a propagandist. Katie Pavlich, on the other hand, comes across that way to me. She doesn't seem interested in objectively determining what's right or wrong. Earlier, she described herself as an independent, but I don't buy that characterization. In my view, she's firmly aligned with MAGA and acts more as a spokesperson for Donald Trump, J.D. Vance, and the broader MAGA movement. Her role, as I see it, is to defend and promote the MAGA agenda. That's why she opens with talking points about socialists and frames political debates the way she does. The pattern appears to be that whatever MAGA supports is portrayed as correct, while anything associated with Democrats or the political left is automatically treated as wrong. That's very different from the way Chris Cuomo is trying to discuss the concepts of right and wrong. Right. Wrong.
oh, look, isn't that your point about Trump? Just because he was indicted, do you believe he was guilty of everything he was accused of in the indictments?
There were some of the facts that were proven to be true and some of them that were not. And a lot of them were developed in a false nature by political actors who we saw for years and years and years tried to keep the president out of politics while they claimed they were for a democracy and preserving this right that we have, while they destroyed his reputation with false smears. When it comes to the Southern Poverty Law Center, over 10 decades, we know what happened. There are many examples of people talking in detail about things that were happening to them and the terrorizing the SPLC did to them and put them on maps, like the Focus on the Family was terrorized. There were a number of people who testified as a result of this out of court for years about what the SPLC was doing. So that is real. If you want to go back into what Trump was indicted for, we have litigated that over and over again. That was a political witch hunt.
I'm not relitigating it. I'm not relitigating it. Here's what I'm saying. Trump was indicted. Everything in the indictment was not true. I agree with you. The Southern Poverty Law Center has been indicted.
I think you're making an absurd comparison between the...
And please like, subscribe, and share. What Chris Cuomo is pointing out here is something that Katie Pavlich simply refuses to accept because of her political allegiance. In her view, criticism of Donald Trump is automatically a witch hunt because she supports him so strongly. At the same time, she sees attacks on the Southern Poverty Law Center as completely justified because she disagrees with its conclusions, including its position that white nationalism is a real phenomenon. Either she's deliberately misrepresenting that argument, or she genuinely believes it. That's really the difference on display here. Chris Cuomo is trying to explain that legal standards and personal opinions are not the same thing. He's essentially telling Katie, that's your interpretation, not an established fact. But that's what frustrates me about a lot of MAGA commentary. It often prioritizes belief and loyalty over evidence and reality. The SPLC indictment and the indictment against President Trump are not comparable in any way. They're completely different situations, completely different political environments, and completely different contexts, especially when you look at the history surrounding the SPLC case. And I look forward to discussing that further. Okay, I'm going to stop it there. Honestly, what stood out to me was how uncomfortable Katie Pavlich seemed once she was confronted by someone who was actually willing and able to push back on her arguments. If you've watched her before, you know that she often dominates conversations with guests, but that strategy didn't work here. Chris Cuomo stayed relatively calm and patient throughout the exchange, even while openly reacting to what he clearly viewed as absurd arguments. No matter what your opinion of Chris Cuomo is, and I know people have strong opinions about him, I think he overwhelmingly won this exchange. Katie Pavlich's argument that the Southern Poverty Law Center somehow created white nationalism is, in my view, an extraordinary claim that simply doesn't hold up to scrutiny. Just take a second and think about how implausible that sounds. Let me know what you think in the comments. Maybe you agree with Katie Pavlich, although I'm not sure why you'd be watching this channel if you believe white nationalism was invented as a political attack on MAGA. Or maybe you agree with Chris Cuomo's position in this debate. I don't think Chris Cuomo is right about everything, but in this particular exchange, I think he did an effective job dismantling what I see as a deeply flawed argument from Katie Pavlich. I'm honestly surprised that someone presenting arguments like these has a national television platform, even on a smaller network like NewsNation. Let me know your thoughts in the comments, and don't forget to like, subscribe, and share.